Let's hear from Lorraine Simmons, who is Vice President of Meaningfulworld, and she's going to share about case, individual challenges to forgiveness.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ani. So you have the 7-step integrative healing model in front of you. I will be referring to that. But first, I'd like us to take a look at the importance of self-forgiveness, because self-forgiveness is what's essential for you to have peace within yourself. And if we don't have peace within ourselves, then we're not going to be able to have peace in our communities and in our families. So just a quick description that I found that I enjoyed about self-forgiveness is defined as a change in emotions towards self from the negative to the positive. So from the negative thought processes to a more positive thought process. Forgiveness of self involves change in how we view ourselves. Instead of feeling a lot of guilt, shame, and anger towards ourselves, we begin to replace those feelings with empathy, compassion, and love. So the other thing about responsible self-forgiveness is about understanding that our actions have an impact on other people, and to bring ourselves back to our value-based living instead of continuing the behaviors that we're doing that are harming other people or even harming ourselves. We just regroup, balance ourselves, and bring us back to both of these things, which is to turn from the negative to the positive and to value-based living. So I would like to just share a story with you, which is my own story. And it's a little difficult for me to share, so bear with me. I often find myself experiencing very deep depressions, which is very debilitating. But personally, I find the lack of self-forgiveness is the most difficult disability that I'm faced with. I often live a life of regret, guilt, and remorse, and embarrassed for negative or judgmental behaviors that I exude. There are often times when I feel like I want to punish myself for things that I have said or done. One of the biggest things is this. When my children were very young, I attempted suicide and I nearly succeeded. I was really depressed and mourning the loss and the death of my own mother, and I couldn't bear to live with that pain, the grief, and the depression any longer. I became impulsive and decided to go through with my plan. I couldn't think clearly in that moment. I just wanted the pain to go away. I didn't think about the consequences of my actions. My children were suddenly lost to me. They stopped trusting me and became very different people. They were no longer the innocent, happy-go-lucky, confident children. It was a difficult time to go through, and it was my fault that they were like that. I needed to come to terms with my actions and learn how to forgive myself, or I was going to continue to live in pain, and I would never be fully present for my family. But what to do? How do I forgive myself for hurting them so deeply? I'll go back to the ways that I practice that, but first I'd like to look at ways that we begin to develop that negative sense of self. Because unless we're aware of our negative sense of self, we're not going to be able to change it. First, I think that we learn to criticize ourselves based on what our caregivers and our peers did to us when we were in childhood. Perhaps you've heard things such as, "Sit still. Why can't you behave? Your hair is a mess. Stop crying." All of these phrases are criticizing, and we often integrate them into our belief system, thinking that we are not good enough and we are flawed. We then start to hear the negativity in our thoughts over and over again, and it becomes a pattern that's difficult to change. Again, that's where we need the awareness. Our self-thoughts. What are we thinking, the positive or the negative? Sometimes I think we make assumptions when misunderstanding something, which in turn causes us to create negative myths about ourselves. Myths can cause shame, embarrassment, and low self-esteem that is as real as an actual occurrence. The other thing that I was thinking is that when we do something which violates our personal and moral beliefs, we betray ourselves and other people. Things such as not doing our best when we fail at something, that's when we disappoint ourselves and we have regrets that we didn't try harder. And in my case, we do something to another person that hurts them deeply. I'm sure there are a lot of other ways that we develop negative sense of self. This is just a couple of those examples. So if we were to look, I'm just going to go quickly through the 7-step because I know we're short on time. So 7-step integrative healing model is something that helped me in my personal journey to forgiving myself. The first thing that is on that step is about assessment, which is about looking at and understanding what you're feeling. And the feelings that come up most easily for people are anger, as Dr. Ani said before. But underneath that anger, if you go deeply, you're going to find these other emotions that are hard to look at. And those emotions could range from shame, grief, embarrassment, any negative feeling that's really difficult to look at. So if you're starting to feel angry, I encourage you to go deeper and see what's causing that anger. So once you've identified a situation, for example, for me, which was attempting to take my own life, which really hurt my children, I had to identify what I was feeling. So I identified that I was feeling angry first, and then I identified that I was feeling a lot of loss wrapped around my mom's death. I was also feeling guilt because I had done this to my children. I probably felt every negative emotion you could see on that chart at this point, actually. So I had to take one step at a time. The second in the 7-step integrative healing model is about expressing. Expressing is the essential piece to lead to releasing. It's essential that you find someone that you trust. It could be a family member, it could be a friend, it could be a therapist, and express what's going on. Tell them your story. Help them help you get to the place of expressing your feelings. The other things that you can do is you can journal, you can do creative dance, you could do creative drawings, writing, all kinds of different ways to express yourself. Now this is going to seem like it's a linear experience, but it's not. This experience goes up and down, and you're going to find yourself going back to that place of being in grief again. You have to just do it over and over again and be really patient with yourself until you get to that place where you start to feel a little bit of catharsis. The next step is step 3, which is also very, very important. It's the place where you get validation and empathy from people in your family, people that you share with, people who understand what you're going through. And unless you get that empathy and validation, it's going to be very difficult for you to step back and say, okay, I'm feeling better. I'm feeling like I've released. I feel like people understand me. If you don't get that empathy, I feel like you'll stay in that place of anger, in that place of resentment. So it's really essential that you seek out people who can help you by providing empathy for you. The next step, which is something that Dr. Ani talked about when she climbed in the chair, it's about finding that place where you find the lesson learned in the episode or in your occurrence or whatever it is you're experiencing. You've got to find the lesson in it. It's an opportunity for you to understand what you do, why you do it, why things happen, not necessarily why, but like how they happen to you. The next thing is to find the meaning. Like Dr. Ani said, Viktor Frankl's therapy is about finding the meaning in your life. For me, one of the things that helped me is to know that I had to get back to a place where I could take care of my children, but I also felt like I needed to help other people. And that's where I came into Meaningful World, and I've been helping other people, and that's been giving me meaning in my life. So it's essential to go from being the victim to the victor in step 4. Step 5, locate any resources that you can that help you become more empowered with your journey and healing. So it could be taking a class that helps you, it could be a particular book, an app on your phone. There's lots of different ways that you can research whatever the situation is. And I know I'm going fast, I apologize. Step 6, this is, I think, essential for me, is to connect with nature. Mother Earth has everything that we need to heal ourselves. And if we can connect with Mother Earth, with nature, on a daily basis, I would say, we're going to become more grounded and down into our heart and not up here in our head where we're not able to think clearly. So I would encourage you 100% to connect with nature every single day. Number 7, which is the last step, is something that you can practice throughout this process. It doesn't have to be the last step you go to. Actually, I would encourage you not to let it be the last step. But that is about understanding how we hold negative energy in our body and how to release it so that you don't become ill from an emotional aspect of something that's causing trauma in your life. We do a soul surfing exercises, which is going through all of the energy centers in the body, and we have them on our YouTube channel, Meaningful World YouTube channel called Soul Surfing. And it's about practicing a bit of yoga, a bit of movement with intention to get that energy up and out. We also practice breathing exercises as well as positive affirmations, which will help reinforce that sense of positive self. So I encourage you to do that throughout your practice of self-forgiveness. So I'd like to end with saying that, this process is like an onion. It has lots of layers, and you're going to peel away one layer at a time to reveal the core of who you are. So be kind to yourself in this process because it doesn't happen quickly. You may need to repeat it many times before you get to complete self-forgiveness. But when you do get to it, you will be able to embrace self-forgiveness and self-love. And I believe that self-love and self-forgiveness will help us to have a world of abundance and peace. Thank you.